Alright, so we're live. I just want to see from everyone in the chat if there's anyone that has any suggestions to what I should be doing before I get started. I'll start coding at 2 o'clock. I just want to hear if anyone has any questions to ask or the like, and let me know if there's any issues with the sound or anything else. Everyone in the chat, if there's anyone that has any suggestions to what I should be doing before I get started, I'll Can everyone hear me all right? Is all the sound quality going through properly? All right, let's get started then. So for this course, I think I want to wrap it up with first and foremost touching a few and changing a few things in the admin panel. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. If nobody has any suggestions, let me know. I'll prioritize those. So in here we obviously still have the categories filter, for example, but we could, for example, potentially go ahead and make some changes to some of the functionalities in there. So now that we, for example, can go in and view orders and view the total cost of an order, we can actually go ahead and we can change the status for an order. So what about potentially showing inside the Filament's CMS test and inside orders, we could then go ahead and show the status of them. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sign in with the account I used to order some products with. And in here, in the orders page here, you can see we have this card here where we have the price. I would like us to be able to display the status. So let's head inside our code editor, inside this orders page here. I'm going to go ahead and make this a div instead for now. So in here, I'm going to make this class with a justify between, and I'm going to make it with full, and I'm going to make it flex. And outside of that, I just want to put in here a paragraph. And in here, we just want to have the order. And we want to pass through the status, I believe we called it. So in here, we have the ability to get the status. And you can see we now have pending on the side here. Now, I want to go ahead and make that look like a little bit of a badge. So if we go in and say class, and we make this with a padding of 2, make it a background color of gray 300, and we make it a rounded Excel. let's make it a text small, and also let's make sure that we have a text of, let's say, Slate 800. I'm actually gonna go ahead and change this to background color of gray 200, and I'll go ahead and change this to padding of 1. Actually, I think padding of 2 is better. So we have a text small here with the status just showing here in a pending one here. And outside of that, let's go ahead in here and remove the HIF tag here. And once that's done, let's make sure we get rid of this paragraph here. We don't really need that. Down here, we'll just have another div without a HIF tag. Don't want any extra padding there, so that's fine. We want this to be a text to Excel. And I think we're actually gonna remove this here. So otherwise I'll take priority. So that looks a bit better now. And again, I'm gonna go ahead and actually change this to flex with a justify between. And I'm gonna put this into a paragraph. And I'm gonna put this inside a span here. I'm gonna put in the time it was created. And I'm gonna make sure this is actually a text small, and then we want to take this text to Excel and we want to pass it into the paragraph here. I also want to make sure that we align baseline here and justify self-center. And outside of that, I think this is starting to look a little bit better now. It's not looking perfect, but it's definitely looking like a better way of displaying the product that we have added in. So with that sorted, we can now get rid of the spacing down here. And let's make this go to an individual page. So I'm gonna just take this in to what we called order to show. So if we go in here, we just want to call this order to show, pass in the order, and then we want to have inside our orders folder here something called show the blade PHP. And then outside of that, what I also want to go ahead and make sure of is that inside our order show controller for the individual order, we want to pass through the order. That's an order, and then we want to return orders to show and pass through the order there. So if we go in here now and say X layout, pass through the order, we should be able to get the ID of the order in here. We need to make sure this photo isn't taking up as much space as it is right now. So object cover, and let's make sure it is a max width of 7 to 40 pixels maybe. Let's see how that looks. No, that's not really looking right here. So inside here we have the object cover, And I think if we pass this on to the div again, that's where the issue is. So basically, because we are making this an anchor tag, that's where it's becoming a problem. So we will do that in a new element that we will wrap it around just below here. And let's see if that works now. Yeah. So now we have the ability to actually go into the orders page, and inside there we want to have the proper spacing again. So I'm going to go ahead and add that in to the show the blade.php file. And as you can see, we now have that showing here. So we want to have the order UUID at the top, or as we call it, the order ID. And we want to have this inside a paragraph. We want to have a class here of text small. We want to have a span here where we just call this order ID. And outside of that, we also want to make sure we have the spacing here. And I'm going to make this text font bold. I'm also going to change this to actually a strong tag instead. And then let's create this on a new line. You can see we have the order ID on that side. And then on the other side, let's make sure we have this inside a div where we say class flex justify between, and have another paragraph there, and in there we just want to have the order status. And in there we just want to have the order status. And outside of that, we want to have another div down here. And maybe I actually want to change this to 5 pixel just because that's a bit smaller. Actually, a 4 XL would work better for this case. So we have this small card here now. We have the details of everything in here. Now, let's go ahead and also change this order status to be shipped. And you can see it still works fine. So we're actually able now to pass through all of that data. Then outside of that, in here, we want to have an invoice. So for that, I'm just going to pull up a template I have here for the invoice. Now there's a lot in here to go through, so we can take a look at how that looks like now. So in here, we could actually pass in all the details here. I found this, by the way, here. So for those of you who want to use that, it's just down here in the template. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm actually gonna just get rid of all of this here, and let's just pass through the code instead. And again, credit for the person who made it. And I've made a link in the comments as well, so people can find that. So what I want to do is actually go up here and I want to say config app.name. In here we want to say date, which is going to be order created at format, and also let's just make sure we have the order ID. And for now, let's just leave this as a div for humans. You could also choose to display less of the order ID, and you could, for example, only display the first, let's say, 4 characters of it. So we could say, for example, str limit and it's the other way around. So let's say you could, for example, say the first 4 characters. It's up to you really what you want to do, but I'm gonna limit it for now. Then we want to show the address here, and for this we have, as you see in here, we have this address ID related to it. So all we need to say in here is actually just say, well, order, and in here we have a name for the order. So if we go into our orders table, you'll see we have the user ID 2, so order user name. And then we want to go in here and say order address, and I think we call this address line 2 and just address. So order address 2, and then let's just say order email address. Okay, so inside here we obviously need to say order address. And again, I've just set this to be 8B, so yeah, it's not a very sophisticated one, and you may want to format this differently depending on what country you're in and so on. So I'm going to put order city as well, and you could also put in the postcode here as well. So order postcode, I think we called it. And we're getting an issue here, so we need to just make sure we have that there. And also fix the grammar error. Perfect. So yeah, now we're able to do all of this, yes. And then we want to go in here and iterate through all the products related to the order, which we can go ahead and do down here. So I'm going to go ahead and create a for each order products. But now in here, I just want to say order as product, and I just want to say product in here. Okay, perfect. So all I want to go ahead and do now is I just want to go ahead and get rid of all of these except for one of them. And we then want to pass in the order title, and we want to pass in the product price. And obviously we want to make sure this goes inside a money statement. And then we want to put the total in for the order down here. So we want to say order total. And as you can see, I think we have done some inaccurate calculations in here. So let's just double check inside the variance. And then go inside the product page. And then here we have the t-shirt. We want to make sure we put this through to 3,000. And I think because of that mistake in there, we just have a different price range. It can get a little bit confusing. So let's take a look. There we go. So £7.99 for delivery. And I probably would want to go down here as well and just create one more of these just for delivery fee, really. And I just want to go ahead and call this here. And in here we have on the orders variation here, we actually haven't associated with a delivery type. So we want to associate it with a shipping type as well. So let's go ahead and add that migration now. So PHP artisan make migration, add shipping type to orders table. And in here we want to go in to this one now. Just want to add in table, foreign ID, shipping type, and we want to constrain this to the shipping types table. Cascade on delete. Actually, we want to set null on delete actually to be on the safe side here. And outside that, we just want to drop column shipping type. PHP artisan migrated. We want to make sure it's nullable, of course, as well. So that's going to provide an error otherwise. And there we go. So we can then associate this with a shipping type when we pay as well. But let's for now just go in here and associate it with the express one, just so we can see what's going on here. So I want to go into the order model now. And let's create a relationship. Call shipping type belongs to, return this belongs to shipping type. And then in here, what we should be able to now do is just say order shipping type. And I think end up calling these name and price. Okay, so let's just go ahead and take a look. So we have relationship called shipping type inside the order model. It's a belongs to relationship. The order has the shipping type, which is perfect. Let's first and foremost also going to make sure that we have the type safe here. And why is this not working? So we have to order shipping type inside the order model. This belongs to relationship. Okay, so if we go in here, maybe we should just try to name it shipping for now, just for simplicity. Gonna go ahead and delete that, close that file, call it shipping. And let's make sure we pass this onto a new line. Let's just see what happens if we output the whole shipping bit there. Nothing is happening, so there's something happening with the relationship not fully working here. So we're getting the shipping type model. We want to make sure also in here we have the shipping type. We should probably call it shipping type ID as well, to be fair. So that's probably why the relationship isn't working. So I'm gonna go ahead and simply pfast migrate rollback. Gonna rename this. Gonna migrate it. Gonna call this shipping type again. Just go into the orders table here and make sure we have this set to 1. And then let's close that down. In here, let's just try to see what happens if we output that. Yeah, perfect, it's working. So that was the issue. So order shipping type name and order shipping type price. And there we go. So this is now an invoice. And that's basically what we need to display it. So you could obviously change the address here to be a bit more useful. And I would also argue that we should, for this at least, have a conditional statements checking if the shipping type exists. Because what happens if you have deleted the shipping type either by accident or not by accident? You want to have something showing there, and I think we should at least not make it just shows empty. So let's say if order shipping type else, and then end if in here. So I think for now we just want to say shipping standard, and we will leave the price as I don't know what you want to put in here. You could put 0 or something like that, but I'll just say probably shipping method and just call it standard, to be fair, on the side, because otherwise I think you're going to end up having, you could probably find a better way to put this in, but in case it gets deleted, it's good to have at least something like that here. So if I go in and delete this relationship, even if that just happens by accident, at least we are just showing shipping method as standard, but otherwise we are showing express. And I obviously want to make sure that we specifying here shipping method, and then let's put this inside strong. Let's put a class here of font bold, and there we go. I think that's looks a bit nicer and it makes sense instead of just writing in Express. And yeah, I think the outside of that, the only other thing I could think of improving in here for now would be to set the date inside a time element. And let's put the title in here as the full timestamp. We want to have the value in here as that. We want to put the date time as the full timestamp. And all this do is that we have this coming down here where it shows the exact timing of when it was posted, which is kind of convenient if you do want to know that. But at the same time, it looks a bit nicer. I'm also going to go ahead and remove the background color up here because that looks a bit strange. Can I get the shadow added to below here? And I actually think a shadow large would probably do. So yeah, we now have an invoice page. We have the ability to view what the user paid, and we may also want to have like more details in here, but I think this is a really good way to at least just view the invoice and what the person ordered. You can choose to design this in a different way. Another thing I want to add in here as well is to actually go in and add in a link to the admin panel in our drop down. So if we go down to the navigation component in Livewire, I would like to go in where we have this orders feature here. Let's go in below and add in the admin link. So I'm gonna have one of these here, but I'm gonna just have it as a div with no data in it. Or well, I may actually put in admin others. Yeah, let's add in others and then admin panel. And for now with this, I'm just gonna pass this through without a wire navigate because that will not work very well. And I've just put this to the admin page or whatever your panel is called. So if I go ahead now and click here, that works fine. Another thing you'll notice is because I have a very long email address, I probably want to go in and say str limit and let's say 15 probably would be fine. I think we could say 20 actually. That should be perfect. So this is again I think something that just makes it look a little bit nicer as well. I'm gonna go ahead actually and add wire navigate to these though. We could also go ahead and add that line that we see in here instead of adding in something called others. So I may actually go ahead and do that instead. I think that will look even better. Yeah, that looks perfect. So this way we have a drop down where we have all the links we need. We have the ability to go in and see the status of the order, the price of it, and in here we can then view the invoice. So another thing I was thinking we could try to experiment today with would be to add in the Grape.js plugin, which I've noticed has recently, and thanks to a subscriber or at least someone that's a regular watcher of my channel has suggested implementing this, but it wasn't enabled beforehand for Filament PHP 3. So I was thinking we could go ahead and experiment with this. Now, I will be honest, I haven't used this before, so this is a bit of a new thing for me to try, so it may not work out the way I wanted to, but I think we should give it a go definitely. So let's install Grape.js. Alright, so with that installed, what we should be able to do is actually just add in a page layout. So I think for this, what we want to do is create a resource in Filament called page resource. But we also want to create a model as well. So let's create a model first. And inside the page models, we will later on need to define some fillables. Let's go ahead and find the migration as well here. I'm going to go ahead and actually, because I prefer to write it with a model with a page with an M, so we have the migration created as well. Perfect. So when I go in here and say, we could say table string title, table text, and in here we just want to have content. And then let's say as well, we could have more variables in here, but I'm going to leave it with a meta description as well, just for that purpose. But outside that, I'm going to actually leave it for now with any other details, and we will just use Grave.js only. So I'm going to go ahead and migrate this. Perfect. So with that sorted, let's go into Filament 3P in a minute after we create this Filament resource, where we will say page resource, and inside this resource, which we can find in here in Filament folder inside app, we should be able to go in and actually pass in the Grave.js function. So we just need to have one in here that's called content, title, and let's just go ahead here as well. Yeah, so let's go in and make a text input. And in here just call this title. And then one for the meta description as well. And then let's add those into the fillable variables as well, so we have that sorted. So go into the page model. And here we say protected, fillable, title, and content. So let's go into the admin panel now that we have this link. Let's just use that. Perfect. So what we want to go ahead and do as well is to add the admin panel provider. We want to add the link. So this would fit under content, I think. So let's go ahead and say page resource, get navigation items. And there we have it, pages, create a new page. And let's check here, we also need to pass in an ID, I think, for the Grave.js functionality. So let's go in and pass in ID called page layout. There we go. Yeah, so we need to create an ID in here. I probably want to go ahead and create a section in here. Let's just call this information with a schema, and in here we just want to pass through these two forms. And then I want to have one in here which is called section and content. There we go. So let's just see if this works as a start. I'm putting in test. And I think if we go into here, we can get a block, for example, we could add all of this in here. Just see what happens if we click create. Okay, so that created everything here. So let's take a look at our database. We have the pages table now. In here we have a lot of HTML, which is perfect. So if we go inside web.php, what we theoretically should be able to do, and we should probably actually add a page slot to be fair. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I'm going to make it unique. And let's just PHP artisan migrate, roll back, and then migrate it again. And we will create a new page. So I want to go in here as well. We have got the post resource, for example, where we can just go in and take in a slug, which is going to be required. Call this test and test and test. And then in here, we just want to add anything in here just to see how it renders. We also want to make slug fillable. That should be fixed now. Perfect. So what we can do inside web.php is we can actually go in here and we can say route. Let's just call pages. You can have any prefix you want. Let's just say page slug. And then go ahead and create a controller called page show controller. Make it invocable. Import the class. And call that page to show. And then in here we just want to have return view page to show. So in here let's create a views called page to show. So I'm gonna go ahead and create a show.play.php. In here I'm just gonna pass through the page. So we want to get the page from here. There we go. So that should work fine now. I'm gonna go ahead and make sure we have the X app layout. You don't need to have that, and then you may not want that with the Grape.js functionality, but let's go ahead and see what happens if we go to a URL here. So I think we can just say in here pages and say test. Perfect. So we have all of this data here, and that seems to be working fine. So what I want to go ahead and do now is say div page content. There you go. So now you can modify this with Grape.js as much as you want. You have that control to use a page builder, and we could make this significantly more advanced if we wanted to. But for now, there's not a very extensive documentation on this, so I'm not entirely sure what we can manipulate using Grape.js in here, because one thing is that you can look up what Grape.js offer, but we don't necessarily know what features we can add into this. So on that end, that may be a little bit unhelpful, but hopefully this package will grow more. You can determine the classes here with Tailwind. We're able to select different aspects of it. You can change different things such as dimensions of different aspects. There's all these pre-built blocks here you can use. It's perfect for homepage design and the like. And you now have the ability to just go ahead and link to, for example, a test page, create multiple pages. You'll be able to go in here to navigation. We have the opportunity to actually select, for example, a page, but we want to work on that later on, where we potentially could customize this a bit more to select a specific page if you want to. And yeah, this is now allowing you to essentially pass through any data with Grape.js. I hope this package will have a lot more features added to it because it will be really nice. Um, I don't know if you want to see more of this or if you want to go ahead to another thing now. So yeah, this is how we can implement all of these features with Grape.js. There was another thing I wanted to implement as well quickly would be in Filament now we have a fair few convenient um, plugins we can add in, and it's gotten quite a bit bigger since we started working on this. So I was thinking, let's see what you have fields in here. You got a slug field. No, okay. You have got a money field, which may be useful for this case. I don't know if this would work with. Let's see if this works with money. Powered by Money PHP. Let's try it out. So we could add it into a product page component. Okay, so that's sorted. So let's go ahead and see how it works with a money entry. So I'm gonna go into the product one here. Again, I don't know if this would work with our current see no money, but let's take a look. Could well work easily. So let's find where it says price, and instead say money entry. You don't need to pass in numeric because that's now specified there, so that's perfect. Let's go into products, click edit. We get an issue here. So what's going on here? Oh yeah, it's called money input, not money entry. There we go. So yeah, currently this is not really formatting that neatly. So let's go ahead and, because this is not $3,000, we want to make sure that this formats correctly. So I think we could potentially try to do something along these lines. And we don't want to, we actually want to see if money has something here for that. So let's look at the features. Let's see what happens if we say sum. What is that? No, that's not working. So in here we have all these currencies we can choose from, which is perfect. So if you say money USD for this case, pass in state, and then say to what the options that we have? Format by decimal, by into. I'm not sure if this would work that well, so yeah, I would personally for now avoid using this money field. Because I don't think it would work very well in here, but I may look into how we could get that working later on, but currently I don't think that would work that well. But those are the things I wanted to implement as well before wrapping up the course. Let's take a look in here. So we have the ability to add in something like shield. But we first want to go ahead and add Spatty permissions, so let's go ahead and install that. Now implementing a whole permission system would take quite a while, so I'm not going to go through that entire process in this course, but just give you a brief overview over how we could do that. So let's go ahead and require it. Alright, so that's now required. So let's go ahead and publish the vendor file. Migrate it. And outside of that, I just want to go ahead and take a look at seeing if the application still works fine. It does. Perfect. And then let's go to Filament PHP. And let's take a look at shield. Let's head to the user model. Use has roles. And let's also make sure we publish the configuration. And then let's add in the plugin in the admin panel provider. And we're getting an error, so let's take a look here. I think it says that it supports version 6, so we want to make sure that we are using version 6 for the Spatty permissions, which we are. Perfect. And Filament, then the shield package is using 3.1. Let's make sure we have the newest version here, so composer update. And then we need to install it after this. On fresh application databases will be migrated. I don't want to do. Okay, so I think we actually want to see if that works. And we're getting target class app policies, role policy does not exist. So I think we may need to go in and also add in the use panel shield. Implements, and I think we call this Filament user. And now we're getting a forbidden because I believe there may be some permissions things because we're not having the filament permissions properly set, so we need to say public function can access panel, yeah. And for now we will just return true. This needs to be a boolean. And we need to append a panel. And then just let's create this role policy. There we go. So obviously we're having a few things that need to be sorted as well outside of that. You can work on a lot of these areas. There is the permission prefixes, where we can specify the permissions. And there's a lot to go through here, so hey Jack, Coop, Learn, I think that's how you pronounce your name, but how are you doing today? Alright, so again, we have a lot of different configurations we can use for this. I'm not sure if you want to go through all of the configurations, but let's go ahead and take a look at on default, out of the box, Shield handles the predefined permissions, so if that's all that you need, you're all set. And so basically should handle all the permissions in here. Now, normally what you would do in here is you would check through the user's email address and check if it ends in, for example, if you have a website email address called .tilydecoder at tilydecoder.com, you want to make sure that you check that it ends in that, so that it isn't just anyone that can go in and access the panel. So that's one important bit to say here. You shouldn't have returned true in production, just as a big disclaimer. That is a huge permission issue, and you want to make sure that you can only allow this for specific users. So I think if we go into the admin panel provider, we could add this extra link in here. So let's say so this is called Shield. So let's see if we can find the different pages here. So we have the Filament Shield here. Let's see, can we get navigation? You can get pages. I don't think that would work though, so I think that would break the application. Yeah, that's breaking it. So we want to find Filament Shield Yeah, we can return that. So I guess we could work on that. I'm just trying to, for now, just figure out how we can add in the ability to get the navigation items. So we have filament shield, because it would be hidden somewhere in the package where we have to resolve filament shield. Let's see what classes do you have here. Yeah, so I think I specified the plugin make already in here, so that's fine. It's already added. I've already added that up here to the panel, but it's because we have set the custom URLs in here, so we have this drop down option. So we need to find the resource that this package used to add in the specific navigation items. So we need to find filament, because in here it normally would add automatically, but it doesn't do that if you specify the URLs. So filament shield, let's see if the facade would have to get. It doesn't, so I'm actually just going to take a look inside the vendor folder here. So we're going to look for this package here. We have the filament shield. In here we can then find the resources. Okay, so this is called resources, row, resource, get navigation items. There we go. Yeah. So that's what we need to do, because when we specify a filament admin panel with a custom navigation, plugins URLs won't be added in automatically. We have to specify them down here. So now we have the ability to go in here and, for example, create a row. So we'll call this admin. We could select all, and we can create. And then you can see we now have an admin here, for example. So yeah, that's basically having the roles in here. And what else would be any other suggestions to what we want to add to this CMS before I wrap up today? I think I would leave it running for another half an hour maybe. Please let me know in the comments if you got any suggestions. Let me check here. I think there's some useful plugins we could have for example, a health checker, for example. I think that could be quite useful. So if you go ahead and install Laravel Battery Health, let's go in here, installation and setup. Yes, of course, you're all willing to make pull requests on us on the side as well. So if you want to go in and add a pull request, there's a GitHub repository you can use for that, and feel free to make a pull request. I will review any pull requests on the repository, and if something is made something really neat or amazing, I will feature it in a short brief video on my channel, where you will get a shout out to your GitHub profile or another link. So yeah, feel free to contribute on the GitHub project. I want this project to continue afterwards, but creating hundreds of videos will be a bit extensive, so I'd rather work on it as on the side and maybe do some live streams every now and then later on while I'll work on it to show what we can add in. I already did earlier in the stream, but there's like Grape.js as a page builder, so that's already added in here actually. into the pages, we can go ahead and create a page. We got Grape.js as a page builder. So yeah, that's possible now. We got this here where we can go in and say, for example, add in the features. I probably want to go in here actually and make this searchable and add the title and the meta description in, to be fair. So let's go into our resource here. And then here, let's just make columns and let's make a text column called title. And then one called meta description. And one called slug. And let's make them searchable. There we go. So yeah, now we can search in here as well, just quickly. But let's go back to quickly installing this here. So I'm gonna go in, publish the configurations. I'm gonna require this health package here. Let's migrate it and publish the other configurations. Publish the assets. And in here, let's go ahead and have another navigation group, make settings. And in here, we just want to pass through, let's say, we have this package here called Shui. So let's go ahead and find that. So I'm gonna actually go search for the package again because that's a bit quicker. And let's see what they call it inside source. We have the plugin here that needs to be registered, and then we have the pages. Okay, so let's go ahead and register the plugin as well. Filament Laravel health plugin. Make. And that's important, that's fine, that's good. So let's go in here and then say health check results. Get navigation items. And we're getting an error. So we're getting navigation group. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this actually, just to make sure that we didn't make any big mistakes there. Oh, I think it's actually nothing to do with that. So let's just go in and add the 3 dots there. I think that's the issue. There we go. So now we have application health down here. And then in the app service provider, let's just check these things here. So we want to go into app service provider. And it is in the boot method. So inside the boot method, we just want to have import health. And this is all from this Spatty health package here. So just going to import this. See, I think this would be quicker to just copy and paste. Perfect, so that's sorted. So let's go in now and take a look here. So we could also create a custom page here. Then let's click refresh. Ah yeah, issue happens is that we have not set up mail trap properly. So let's go ahead and do that. Go ahead and log in here. Go to the env file. And I'm just gonna go ahead and pass this through here. So with that sorted, now we should be able to refresh here. Perfect. So you can see this is all specified here. And this is obviously more useful for when you're in production, but I think you can take a look at that as you please in the production. So let's take a look. Outside of that, I would like to, when we create an order on checkout the PHP, in here we have this attachment of the order, but as I mentioned earlier, we're not attaching the address, and we're setting the address, the shipping type, here. So let's go into check out the plate.php. I believe down here actually it's up here, sorry. We're setting the shipping type and we're specifying it as an ID, which is perfect. So all we want to go ahead here and do is actually just say order create and shipping type ID should be set to this shipping type. Outside of that, let's go ahead into the no, the email isn't necessary, I think, but I think you probably should implement it because you probably, it's up to you, but you would need to mess around a bit with the configurations for that. But I would suggest that you import email setup for when users sign up, create orders and that. And I was thinking to actually also make an order email at some point. And I'm thinking from now on, maybe every Sunday I could work on this course or different things as well if people would be interested in that. So that's sort of my thought process behind it. So we're passing in the shipping type ID here. And then let's go ahead and make a mail. And this is just going to be a very simple one. Order confirmation with markdown. So let's go ahead and say, before we even send the mail, so let's say, let's dispatch a mail in here. So I think we should actually go ahead to, I'm just going to find some relevant code here. Yeah, that could work. I don't think I have time to do the multi-theme thing today though, but we could add that definitely for another live stream, and I can look into that. I would like to do some preparations for something like that first though. So it wouldn't be for this time, but we want to say mail to this customer form, email, send. We just want to pass through a new order confirmation. And in here, we just want to pass through a public instance of order as order. Alright, so we have order confirmation, and outside of that, what we just need to say is inside order confirmation, the blade.php, which you normally will find inside your resources, and then there'll be a mail folder here. We could just pass through, for example, thank you for placing your order. And then you can put all sort of details in here. Now, I think I will leave the live stream for now, so I'll head off. But in the next couple of videos, next live stream on Sunday, we could potentially work on making this email complete and wrap it all up. But also, I'll look into the suggestion of potentially multi-themes. That is a bit more of a big implementation, so that may not necessarily be the next one. It may take a little bit longer for me to prepare that. But thank you very much for watching this live stream, and if you haven't already, please hit the like button, the subscribe button, and let me know what you think of my content in the comment section below.